Hi.
Hello,
Um, can you say your full name?
Raymond John Howard.
What war did you serve in?
I served in the Vietnam War.
How did you stay in touch with your family?
I was married at the time. I married just before I went overseas, and myself and my wife had tape recorders, and we would tape messages on our recorders back and forth to each other.
How did you talk to your mother and father?
I wrote them letters.
Mm. How old were you when you left for war?
I was 20 years old.
Were you drafted or were you enlisted?
I enlisted.
Why did you join war?
I joined the Army in 1966 because at the time I was a mechanic and I wanted to continue my career as a mechanic and not go into infantry. And so I thought if I joined the Army, I would be able to stay with my career that I had started right after high school.
Mm. Mm. Do you remember arriving?
Yes,
How was it?
scary.
Do you remember your surrounding?
Yeah, I was in an airplane. I flew to Vietnam on an airplane from California, and we stopped in Hawaii for a couple hours to refuel. And then from Hawaii, we stopped in the Philippines for another hour or so. And then from there, we flew into Vietnam, and the plane ride was different from most plane rides that you fly commercial in the United States, because there were people on the ground shooting at airplanes coming in for landing, so they came in very sharply. They didn't have a long approach to their landing. They came in and they dropped very quickly. And the surroundings, I flew into Saigon, Vietnam, South Vietnam. And then from there we stayed and got our orders to where we were to report, and then from there I got on a military plane and flew to Quy Nhon, Vietnam, which is about 250 miles north of Saigon.
Did you fly with any of your friends or were you meeting new people?
There were just acquaintances that I had talked with on the flight over from California.
Mm. What did you do when you left the war?
When I came home from Vietnam in 1969, in January, I was stationed at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and I came back from Vietnam as a sergeant. I was a motor sergeant, and I was in charge of a motor pool in Kentucky for training, basic training recruits.
Do you have any photos from the war?
I probably have a few, but I haven't seen them for quite a few years.
Did you keep a personal diary?
No, I didn't. Just the tapes that I had sent to my wife while I was over there. We still have them, but I don't know if they're still any good or not.
Mm. Do you recall the day your service ended?
I remember coming home from Kentucky. My wife and I, after I got back to Vietnam, we moved to Kentucky, and I was stationed there for almost a year. And I got out in October of 1969 and came back to Michigan. And myself and my wife moved in with my mother-in-law, for a few months until we were able to purchase our first home.
What did you do in the days and weeks afterwards? Did you start your job again, or did you just relax?
Before I went into the service, I was working at a trucking company in Detroit as an apprentice mechanic. And when you were in the service, they had to give you your job back after you came back from the service. So I had gone back to the company that I had started my career after high school, and I went back to work there.
How long did you work there?
I worked there for approximately 1 year, and I was always looking for a better job, and I left there and went to another trucking company and was employed as a mechanic there for approximately 2 years. And after that, I went to Ford Motor Company, and I stayed there for 35 years as a mechanic.
If you could, would you do that all over again?
Yes, it was a good experience during my lifetime.
Made you form into a better man?
Yes, I was 20 years old when I went over. I turned 21. I spent Christmas in Vietnam. And I came home in January of 1969. I had missed actually 2 Christmases, and I came home and everybody got together and we had a Christmas for me when I did return home in January of '69.
Did you go to college?
I took some college courses after I came back to the United States. I went to Henry Ford Community College and took some courses there, but I did not receive a degree.
Were you a prisoner of war?
No.
Were you awarded any medals?
While I was in Vietnam, I was twice awarded Soldier of the Month. I was a expert marksman, and I was awarded the Vietnam Service Medal.
How did people entertain themselves while you were there?
I was on a compound that had entertainment that came in from the USO, and they had an officers club there where they had entertainment, but it was just for the officers. I think writing letters and listening to the radio was about our only entertainment.
Did you meet a lot of friends when you were there, and are you still in touch with them?
I'm not in touch with any of the people that I was in Vietnam with, although I do remember quite a few of their names, but they're from scattered throughout the United States.
Can you tell me about your boot camp?
I went to basic training, and when I enlisted in October of 1966 in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And it was very cold there, and it was very hard, 8 weeks of training. And I was in good physical condition at the time. And so basic training was pretty simple for me.
Was it not easy for other guys?
Some guys that was a little tougher on, but I managed to get through that basic training. And after basic training, I had gone to what they had called an AIT, it was Advanced Individual Training, and I went to Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Maryland after basic training.
What exactly did you do in the war?
When I first went over to Vietnam, I was a mechanic. I worked on tanks, I worked on heavy equipment. That was my job title as a mechanic. And then after I was there for a few months, I was promoted to the rank of sergeant, and I became in charge of the motor pool in Vietnam.
Do you remember any of your instructors?
one drill sergeant that I was in basic training. I remember him. Very tough, very demanding.
Mm. Why did you pick the service branch you joined?
No particular reason. I knew that I could get into the Army after I talked with recruiters about staying in my type of work that I wanted to be in, and if I joined the service, there was a better chance of me getting my job that I was already starting to perform in the United States, and if I joined, they would guarantee me that I'd be able to stay with that type of training.
What are some of your most memorable experiences?
Several times in Vietnam, we slept in, there were barracks, there were crude barracks, and several times that I was there, our fort compound, as we called it, was rocketed by the enemy, and we had to get out of bed sometimes in the middle of the night and go into protective bunkers to protect ourselves from the explosions. And I was served guard duty there on our compound, and I recall being shot at several times while I was on guard duty up in the guard towers.
Did they ever hit you?
No, never wounded.
Did you ever shoot at them?
I returned fire on several occasions.
Mm. Did you ever pull pranks on some of your friends?
I don't recall ever doing anything like that.
Did you guys ever play games? Like, did you guys ever play cards or listen to the radio together?
I recall playing cards several times while I was in the service, but I wasn't much of a gambler.
Do you have anything to say to some of the, if they were here right now, what would you say to some of the people you served with?
That was a great experience for me to go to the war and to fight for my country.
Do you wish you did more years of the war? Like, do you wish you could have gone back?
No, 1 year was plenty enough to be away from home.
Did you join any veterans organizations?
I am a life member of the VFW Post 1136 in Wyandotte, Michigan. My father, which was in World War II, was a commander of the VFW in Wyandotte when I returned home, and he talked me into signing up and joining the VFW. And for the past 8 years, I have belonged to the Vietnam Veterans Organization in Dearborn, Michigan. It's a veterans center that Vietnam vets. There's a group of Vietnam veterans that attend a meeting twice a month in Dearborn to talk about our problems, to talk about some of the things that happened to us when we were in the service, and just a general get together of guys that were in the service that knew how things were over there. And when we came home, it wasn't, people treated us pretty badly when we came home because of the news media at the time was saying that they were killing a lot of civilians, they were killing children and babies. And so when you came home from Vietnam, you usually took your uniform off. Not like today, everybody walks around being proud of wearing the uniform. But back in got out in '69, if you had your uniform on, people called you baby killers, and you never got any anything from the general public as being a soldier.
Did you ever lose family from being called, from what the media was saying?
No, I lost about 5 friends from the town I was in that were killed in Vietnam, and they're at the library in my city of Southgate, Michigan. There is a monument at the library with all the men from Southgate that died in Vietnam.
Are there plaques anywhere that say thank you for serving with your name on it?
When I go to the Veterans Center in Dearborn, there are plaques there thanking us for our service. And I just recently received a letter from President Obama thanking us for our service.
How often do you go to your organization?
Every 2 weeks.
Do you still have your uniform?
I have maybe a dress coat and a dress hat from the Vietnam.
Do you still have your dad's?
No, I don't have anything of my father's from Vietnam. I have some from World War II. I have some pictures and some medals of my dad's.
Yeah, I see it on the wall.
Yeah, I have it in my basement, hanging on the wall with the flag from his casket when he was buried. He was buried with military honors.
Will you be buried with the military's honors?
There will be military honor guard at my funeral when I do pass, but I will be buried in a public cemetery alongside my wife.
Did you ever have shock when you got back from the war? Like many veterans have, I don't remember what it's called, but they have shock from the war. Did you have that?
Well, there's a word, it's called post-traumatic stress disorder,
Yeah.
PTSD, and I believe that I have some parts of that. I had nightmares at times. I would wake up in the middle of the night and somebody would be chasing me when I was in Vietnam, and sometimes I woke up with nightmares at night.
Were your nightmares real life occurrences or were they just dreams?
Just dreams.
You said your dad influenced you into the war. Did anyone else influence you?
No, I was very young at the time the Vietnam War was going on, and I wanted to go into the service and fight for my country.
To make your dad proud too?
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to add that we have not covered?
I just, it's been 50 years since the war ended in Vietnam, or since it started, and they're just now recognizing Vietnam veterans and thanking them for their service, and now we're getting a welcome home from the President of the United States, and it's very nice to be able to get that now after all these years.
You wish they did it sooner?
Yes. The people in Afghanistan and are coming home now with their uniforms on, and the people are very proud of them for serving. We never got that when we were in Vietnam.
Do you wish you had that?
Yes.
Well, I want to thank you for this interview.
Well, it's been very nice talking to you. I hope that I've answered your questions, and thank you very much for asking me to do this.
You gonna say bye?
Bye now.